Have you ever felt a longing in your heart so deep, so personal that you couldn't even put it into words? That quiet ache, that unexpressed hope. What if I told you that even those silent whispers are heard? This video explores the profound truth that Allah listens, even to the du'as you never utter aloud. My beloved brothers and sisters, many of us believe that dua only happens when we raise our hands and speak out loud. Yet, there are moments when the tongue refuses to move, when the heart is too heavy, and all we can do is feel. Do you know that even in that silence, Allah is listening? He hears you, He understands you, and He knows exactly what you are asking for, even when you cannot articulate it. The unspoken dues are sometimes the most powerful. Why? Because they come directly from the depths of the soul, without the filter of language. When you are in pain, when you are anxious, when you simply sit and breathe and your heart says, "Why Allah? I need you," without words, Allah has already heard it. The Creator does not require sound to understand His creation. Psychologically, the unspoken dua reveals something profound about the human being. Words are often shaped by culture, by language, by the fear of how others may judge us. But what is inside the heart is raw, authentic and real. It is that raw yearning, that inner cry of the soul that connects most deeply to Allah. And that is why sometimes you will find relief not in the words you say, but in the tears that flow without speech. When you silently call upon Allah, you are reminded of His attribute of being all-knowing. You are reminded that no one understands you fully except Him. And when you live with that awareness, it transforms your relationship with the divine. You stop worrying about whether your dua was phrased perfectly, whether you recited enough, or whether you use the right language. Instead, you begin to realize that the sincerity of the heart matters more than the eloquence of the tongue. And yes, my brothers and sisters, sometimes your dua is not answered immediately. But that does not mean Allah has ignored you. Rather, He is protecting you, preparing something better for you, or reserving the reward for a time when you will need it most, perhaps even in the hereafter. What appears to be silence from Allah is actually an answer in disguise. His wisdom sees beyond our limited vision. So the next time you feel too broken to speak, remember that you do not need to. Your sighs, your tears, your racing thoughts, Allah hears them all. The Prophet reassured us that Allah responds even to the quietest of calls. This should fill your heart with peace, because even when people fail to notice your pain, even when the world dismisses your struggles, Allah is attentive to every beat of your heart. This is where faith becomes powerful. True strength lies in surrendering, in knowing that your deepest needs are never hidden. Strength lies in whispering within yourself, "My Lord knows," and trusting that He is already writing a response for you. So carry on. My beloved brothers and sisters, make your duas loudly if you can. But if you cannot, know that your silence is not emptiness. It is a dua of the soul, and Allah hears it just as clearly, if not more. When we think about making dua, most of us imagine raising our hands, moving our lips, and uttering words that travel into the heavens. But my beloved brothers and sisters, have you ever paused to realize that Allah hears even when your lips are sealed, even when your voice is silent, even when all you can do is feel? The truth is, the very first form of dua is not always the spoken one. It is the longing of the heart. That yearning, that whisper in your soul, which never even makes it to your tongue, is already known, already heard, already recorded, and already responded to by Allah in His unique and perfect way. Think of the moments when you are overwhelmed by emotion, when grief strikes and words become too heavy to carry. Sometimes you are sitting in solitude, staring at the ceiling in the middle of the night, and your eyes are moist, but your lips are motionless. Sometimes you are in the middle of a crowd, yet your heart is etching, and you cannot express your pain to anyone, not to family, not to friends, not even to yourself in words. And yet, at that exact moment, Allah is listening. He is closer to you than anyone could ever be, closer to you than your own inner voice. Even when you don't express your dua, it is as though your heart has spoken a language beyond language, and Allah has understood it. This is why silent duas are so powerful. They bypass language, culture, and human limitations. Words often fail us. Sometimes they confuse us or dilute what we really feel. But the heart never lies. The silent dua represents the purest, most authentic communication with your Creator. It is the essence of sincerity. It comes without rehearsed phrases, without embellishment, without fear of judgment. It comes directly from your inner being. When your soul says, "I need you," oh Allah, even if your tongue cannot, Allah hears it louder than anything else. Imagine a child who is too small to form sentences. When the child cries, the mother understands what is needed. She knows whether the child is hungry or in pain or tired without a single word being spoken. If this is how a human mother understands her child's unspoken needs, then what about Allah, who created you, who knows you better than you know yourself, who understands the secret whispers of your chest before even you can recognize them? If His mercy is greater than a mother's mercy, then how can your silent dua ever go unnoticed? In fact, the unspoken dua is a reminder of one of Allah's greatest attributes, that He is all-knowing. He does not need sound waves to reach Him. He does not need you to construct perfect sentences or find the right vocabulary. He knows your needs even before you have the courage to acknowledge them. And when you live with this awareness, it changes everything. It makes you realize that your relationship with Allah is not bound by rituals of speech alone, but by the sincerity of your state. It makes you understand that the strength of dua is not measured in decibels but in depth. Often, when we think that our duas are not answered, it is because we confuse the timing of Allah with the urgency of our own desires. The silent dua is especially a test of patience and trust. You may have never voiced it, but deep down you carry a request for years, and you may wonder, does Allah hear me? My brothers and sisters, Allah not only hears you, He treasures your dua. It is stored for the right moment, a moment that you may not have foreseen. Perhaps the unspoken dua is answered in a way you did not imagine, through protection from harm, through an unexpected blessing, through peace in your heart, or perhaps it will be answered in the hereafter in ways that far surpass this world. So, the unspoken dua is not a forgotten dua. It is not ignored. It is valued in the divine court. Sometimes the fact that you could not express it in words makes it even more precious, because that means it was too deep, too raw, too real for language. And when something is that real, Allah honors it even more. He responds in silence, in His own way, reminding you that His wisdom is greater than your understanding. What we must remember is that Allah does not compare your dua with someone else's. He does not measure eloquence, He measures sincerity. A person might deliver a long, beautifully worded supplication in front of others, but if the heart is absent, it lacks the essence. Another person might just breathe deeply with pain, unable to articulate a single sentence. Yet that breath alone can be heavier in value than the most eloquent words, because it came from the heart. Therefore, never underestimate your silent dues. Do not think that because you did not utter them, they are weaker. Do not think that because no one else knows what you want, it means it has gone unnoticed. Every sigh, every heartbeat, every tear that falls without speech is a testimony that you are turning back to your Lord. And Allah, in His mercy, never leaves His servant unheard. So, my beloved brothers and sisters, embrace the silence in your connection with Allah. Speak when you can, and when you cannot, trust that the silence itself is a dua. The angels record what is in your heart, and Allah responds with mercy that you cannot even imagine. The world may fail to understand your silence, but Allah never does. He hears the quietest echo of your soul, and He answers it in the most perfect way. The human being is not just body and mind, but also soul, and at the deepest level of the soul lies a longing that is often too profound to be spoken. My beloved brothers and sisters, the psychology of this inner longing is what makes unspoken duas so meaningful. You see, every one of us carries hidden desires, unexpressed fears, and silent prayers that we may never share with another soul. These inner movements of the heart reveal who we truly are far beyond the image we present to the world. They are the most authentic expressions of our humanity, and it is in this secret space that the bond with Allah becomes intensely personal. There are times when you feel a yearning for something that even you cannot describe. You may sit quietly, feeling an ache inside, knowing that you need comfort or guidance but struggling to put it into words. From a psychological perspective, this is the language of the subconscious, the layers of your being that operate beneath rational thought. Often our spoken dues reflect what our conscious mind can access, our goals, our troubles, our dreams. But the unspoken dues reflect something deeper, the essence of what the soul craves. Sometimes that craving is for peace, for healing, for forgiveness, or simply for the reassurance of Allah's closeness. This inner longing is so powerful because it strips away the masks we wear in daily life. When we pray out loud, sometimes we are influenced by how we think a dua should sound, by tradition, by culture, or even by the need to impress others. But in the silence of the heart, there is no audience except Allah. There are no rehearsed phrases, no worry about eloquence, no fear of judgment. There is only raw sincerity. That is why unspoken dues reach a place that spoken words cannot. They arise from a space of absolute truth within the self. And here lies something remarkable. The moment you recognize your longing, you are already in the act of dua. Longing itself is a form of supplication. The tears you cannot explain, the sighs that escape you in solitude, the heaviness in your chest that no conversation can lift, these are duas in disguise. They are signals from your inner being reaching toward the divine. And Allah, who created the psychology of the human heart, understands these signals without a single word. We sometimes underestimate the spiritual power of longing. Yet longing is the bridge between the human and the divine. It humbles you because it reminds you of your incompleteness. It makes you admit that you are not self-sufficient. And in that admission lies the key to drawing near to Allah. It is as if your soul is saying, I cannot do this on my own, I need you. That statement, whether uttered in words or hidden in the heart, is the very essence of worship. From a psychological angle, longing also helps us confront what we often avoid, Many people bury their pain, their regrets, and their unfulfilled desires under layers of distraction. But the heart knows. The heart keeps whispering even if the mind tries to silence it. And when you finally allow yourself to acknowledge that longing, you turn it into a prayer. You let it rise from a hidden ache into a sacred connection. This is how the unspoken dua heals. It brings to the surface what was hidden, and then it hands it over to the one who can transform it. Sometimes, the beauty of this inner longing is that you don't even fully understand what you're asking for. You may think you are yearning for a particular outcome, but in reality your soul is seeking something greater. Perhaps closeness to Allah, perhaps protection from harm, perhaps a better path than the one you imagined. This is why unspoken duas are often answered in unexpected ways. Because Allah responds not only to the words you did not say, but also to the needs you could not identify. His wisdom sees beyond your awareness, and His mercy fills the gaps of your understanding. Consider those moments when you feel restless, unsettled, as though something is missing in your life. You may not know exactly what you want, but that unease itself is a dua. It is your soul searching for completion, for a return to its source. It is as if the soul remembers that it was created to know Allah, and so it continues to yearn, even when the mind cannot name what it seeks. This longing is a gift because it keeps you connected, it keeps you searching, it keeps you humble. And so, my beloved brothers and sisters, do not ignore your inner longings. Do not dismiss them as meaningless or weak. They are signs that your heart is alive. They are signs that you are in need of Allah, and that need is not a weakness. It is the greatest strength a believer can have. Because the one who knows they need Allah will never be left abandoned. The one who longs for Him in silence is never unheard. The psychology of inner longing reminds us that dua is not just an act of the tongue. It is the language of the soul. Sometimes you will speak and sometimes you will not. Sometimes you will know what you want and sometimes you will not. But Allah always knows. He knows the thoughts before you think them, the feelings before you can name them, the needs before you can recognize them. And that is why the unspoken dua is perhaps the most intimate form of communication with your Lord. When you sit in silence with only your heart yearning, remember that this longing is already being carried to Allah, and He, in His infinite compassion, is already responding in ways you cannot yet see. That is the miracle of dua. It begins in the depths of your being, and it ends with the mercy of your Creator. My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest sources of peace for the heart is knowing that whether your dua is spoken out loud, whispered quietly, or kept entirely within you, Allah hears it. His listening is not like the listening of people. Human beings require sound words and clear communication to understand one another. But Allah, in His perfection, hears without sound, sees without light, knows without explanation. Trusting in Allah's listening is a profound part of faith because it allows you to surrender even those prayers you could not voice, knowing that nothing is hidden from Him. When you sit in silence, sometimes you might feel as though your prayer is incomplete. You may think, I didn't say it properly, I forgot the right words, I didn't have the strength to explain myself. Yet, even before you formed those thoughts, Allah already knew what your heart was carrying. He knew the request, the fear, the sorrow, the hope, and the need. Trust in His listening means letting go of the worry about whether you prayed correctly and instead focusing on whether you prayed sincerely. He does not measure the power of your dua by its eloquence, but by the state of your heart when you made it. Think about how often we feel misunderstood by people. You may try to explain your pain, your struggles, your dreams, and still others may not grasp the depth of what you're experiencing. But with Allah, there is no misunderstanding. He knows you fully. In ways you cannot know yourself, He knows the details of your struggle, the history behind your fears, and the unseen future of your needs. He knows what you left unsaid and why you left it unsaid. Sometimes your silence comes from exhaustion, sometimes from shame, sometimes from confusion. But Allah sees all of it and hears all of it. Trusting in His listening means realizing that even your silence has meaning with Him. When you live with this trust, your relationship with Allah changes. You no longer approach dua as a performance or a test of memory. Instead, you approach it as a conversation with the one who already knows. You speak or you remain silent, but either way you are understood. This brings immense relief because it removes the pressure of getting it right. Imagine if Allah only accepted duas in perfect Arabic, or only accepted them when recited with flawless pronunciation. How many of us would be left out? Yet Allah, in His mercy, hears every language, every dialect, every broken attempt, and even the language of the heart without words. That is His perfection, and that is why you can trust Him completely. Trusting in Allah's listening also builds patience. Sometimes you may think your dua is answered, but in reality it has already been heard and stored. Allah, in His wisdom, delays or redirects the response for a reason you cannot yet understand. This requires you to trust that His listening is not passive. He is not merely hearing and ignoring. He is hearing and planning. He is hearing and protecting. He is hearing and preparing something greater for you. To trust His listening is to trust His timing, even when it feels slow to you. Think about the moments when you made a silent dua in your heart, perhaps years ago, and you forgot about it. Then suddenly, something unfolds in your life and you realize it was an answer to that unspoken request. In that moment, you remember that Allah never forgot. What you had let slip away from memory was preserved with Him. This realization strengthens your faith because it shows you that nothing is ever lost when entrusted to Him. The reality is, trusting Allah's listening means freeing yourself from the fear of being alone in your struggles, even if no one in this world notices your pain. Even if your closest loved ones cannot grasp what you are going through, you are never unheard. Allah's listening is constant and His awareness is complete. This trust allows you to walk through life with calmness because you know that no tear, no sigh, no thought, no fear, no wish is overlooked. And here lies the beauty. The more you trust in Allah's listening, the more you will find yourself turning to Him instinctively. Even before you think of sharing something with another human being, your heart will quietly direct it to Allah. This creates a deep intimacy with your Creator. He becomes your first point of contact, not your last. You stop waiting for people to understand you, and instead you find comfort in the fact that Allah already does. So, my beloved brothers and sisters, do not doubt for a single moment that Allah hears you. He hears the words you speak, but He also hears the words you couldn't. He hears the prayers you thought were too small, the ones you thought were too messy, the ones you thought were too unworthy. Trust in His listening means believing that nothing is beneath His attention and nothing is beyond His mercy. Even your silence is a form of dua, and even that silence is received by Him with compassion. Let this trust fill your heart with peace. When you feel weak, remind yourself, Allah heard me. When you feel ignored by people, remind yourself, Allah heard me. When you feel uncertain about the future, remind yourself, Allah already heard me. And in that remembrance, you will find strength to keep going. Hope to keep asking and comfort in knowing that your every unspoken prayer is safe with the One who never misses a sound, never overlooks a heart, and never leaves a servant unheard. My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the greatest lessons we learn from life itself is that not everything happens when we want it to. Sometimes you pray with all your heart, you make dua day and night, whether in words or in silence, and yet the outcome does not arrive as quickly as you hope. This is where patience and divine timing come into play. The reality of dua is not simply about asking, it is also about trusting the wisdom of when and how Allah chooses to respond. He is the Lord of time. He sees what we do not see, and He knows what we cannot know. What you perceive as a delay is, in fact, part of a perfect arrangement. Patience in dua is not passive waiting, it is active faith. It means holding on to the certainty that Allah has already heard you and that the response is on its way in the form most suitable for you. The delay is not neglect, nor is it rejection. It is preparation. It is protection. Sometimes, if the answer were given immediately, it might not benefit you, or it might harm you in ways you cannot anticipate. Allah, in His mercy, waits until the right moment, sometimes years later, sometimes in a completely different form than you imagined. Think about how a parent may withhold something from a child, not because the child doesn't deserve it, but because the timing is not right. If a small child asks for something sharp or dangerous, a wise parent does not hand it over simply because the child insists. The parent knows better. In the same way, Allah's delays are not denials. They are acts of mercy. They are acts of divine wisdom. He withholds because He knows the exact moment when granting your request will be a blessing, not a burden. The challenge, however, is that as human beings, we are naturally impatient. We live in a world of instant results, immediate communication, quick fixes, and fast gratification. We carry this mindset into our relationship with Allah, expecting Him to answer instantly. And when He doesn't, we begin to doubt, Allah, hear me. Am I not worthy? Is my dua rejected? These are natural feelings, but they must be corrected with the truth. The truth is Allah has already heard, already accepted, and already planned the response. It is only a matter of time. Patience in dua requires trust in the unseen. It requires you to acknowledge that your perspective is limited. You see the present moment, but Allah sees your past, your future, and the consequences of every choice. His knowledge encompasses what would have happened if your dua was granted immediately, and what will happen if it is delayed. From this vast knowledge, He decides what is best. So when you do not see results, remind yourself the delay is not silence. It is Allah's wisdom unfolding. This understanding transforms the way you wait. Instead of waiting with frustration, you begin to wait with hope. Instead of letting impatience erode your faith, you allow patience to strengthen it. Every day that passes without an answer becomes another opportunity to show Allah that you trust Him, that you believe in His timing more than your own desires. This kind of patience is not weakness. It is spiritual strength. It means you are placing your entire being in the hands of your Creator. Another reality of divine timing is that sometimes the answer to your dua is reserved for the hereafter. You may not see it in this world at all, and that itself is a form of mercy. Because when Allah saves the reward of your patience for the hereafter, He is preparing something far greater, something eternal, something that makes all the waiting worthwhile. What you thought was unanswered is, in truth, answered in the most beautiful way, a way that will matter forever. Patience in dua also teaches humility. It reminds you that you're the servant and Allah is the master. You cannot dictate to Him how or when to respond. You cannot set deadlines for the divine. You can only ask and then surrender. And in that surrender lies peace. When you stop trying to control the timing of your life and start trusting the timing of Allah, your heart finds rest. You no longer measure your dua by the speed of the response, but by the sincerity of the connection. Let me tell you, my beloved brothers and sisters, sometimes the very act of waiting is itself an answer. Perhaps the delay is meant to purify your heart, to bring you closer to Allah, to teach you resilience, to remind you of your dependence on Him. Sometimes you would not have remembered Allah so much if the dua had been answered instantly. But because you are waiting, you keep turning back again and again, and through that repetition, your bond with Allah deepens. In this way, the delay becomes more valuable than the fulfillment itself. So the next time you find yourself waiting, do not see it as wasted time. See it as sacred time. See it as Allah refining you, shaping you, and preparing you for what is to come. Every moment of patience is recorded. Every sigh is known. Every tear is counted. Not a single second of waiting is in vain. In the end, patience and divine timing are a reminder that your life is in the hands of the one who loves you more than you can imagine. If He delays, it is for your good. If He grants, it is for your good. If He redirects, it is for your good. Trust that whatever the outcome, it is part of a plan more perfect than anything you could have written for yourself. And when you truly embrace this truth, you will find that waiting is no longer a burden. It is a form of worship, a testimony of your trust, and a path to peace. My beloved brothers and sisters, there is something profoundly transformative about silence. We live in a world where noise surrounds us everywhere. Voices, opinions, distractions, and endless chatter. Even in our moments of solitude, our minds are crowded with thoughts that never seem to rest. Yet it is in silence, in the stillness of the heart, that the believer often finds the deepest connection with Allah. And it is in this silence where du'as are unspoken and yet fully heard that faith finds its greatest strength. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is not weakness. Silence, when directed toward Allah, becomes a powerful form of worship. It strips away the need for performance, for eloquence, for impressing others. It leaves you face to face with the reality of who you are and who your Creator is. In the quiet moments when your heart simply whispers, "Oh Allah, I need you," without words, you are reminded that Allah is not distant, not unreachable. He is nearer than you can imagine, attentive to every beat of your heart. This realization strengthens faith because it shifts your reliance from external expressions to the inner certainty that Allah is always with you. Consider how often words fail us. Sometimes you are too overwhelmed to express yourself. Sometimes your grief is too deep, your fears too heavy, or your hopes too complex to articulate. In those moments, silence speaks, tears speak. The very restlessness of your soul becomes a prayer. And when you allow that silence to become your dua, you are essentially telling Allah, "You know me better than I know myself. I trust you with what I cannot express." That trust is the very essence of faith. The strength of silence lies in its honesty. Spoken prayers, while beautiful, can sometimes be influenced by external factors, by what we've memorized, by what we've heard others say, by the fear of not sounding religious enough. But in silence, there are no filters, no rehearsed phrases, no fear of judgment. There is only you and your Lord. That is why silent du'as are often the most sincere. And sincerity is the foundation of true faith. Silence also trains the heart in humility. When you sit quietly before Allah, not uttering a single word, you are admitting that He already knows. You are acknowledging your dependence on His knowledge, His mercy, and His wisdom. You are saying, "I cannot even find the words, but you, my Lord, know my every thought." That surrender is a powerful act of faith. It humbles you, reminding you that you are the servant and He is the master, and that your role is not to control but to trust. Strengthening faith through silence also comes from learning to be comfortable with the unseen. We are people who crave signs, answers, and clarity. We want to hear a voice, to see a response, to know with certainty that our prayers have been answered. But silence forces us to build trust in the unseen. It forces us to believe that even when nothing appears to change, something is happening beyond our perception. It teaches us that Allah's listening is not dependent on sound, and His response is not always visible immediately. This reliance on the unseen nurtures a deeper, more resilient faith. There is also a psychological beauty in silent dua. When you carry your needs quietly within you, it creates intimacy between you and Allah. You may share your struggles with others, and they may listen or try to help, but only Allah knows the full story. Only He knows the details you didn't say, the feelings you couldn't describe, the hidden layers even you don't understand. When you keep a dua in the silence of your heart, it becomes a secret between you and your Lord, and secrets build closeness. The more secrets of the heart you entrust to Allah, the closer you feel to Him, and the stronger your faith becomes. Another strength of silence is that it detaches you from the noise of the world. Many times people seek validation from others when they express their pain. They want to be heard, acknowledged, and comforted. But when you choose silence, when you keep your dua between you and Allah, you shift your source of comfort away from people and toward Him alone. This independence from human validation strengthens your faith because it roots your trust where it belongs, not in creation, but in the Creator. Silence also brings peace. Words can sometimes create more turmoil, especially when they are misunderstood by others. But the silence of dua cannot be misunderstood. Allah understands it perfectly. And when you internalize this truth, your heart finds calmness. You realize that you do not need to explain yourself to anyone. You do not need to convince anyone of your pain or your sincerity. Allah already knows. That realization itself is a source of strength. And finally, my beloved brothers and sisters, silence in dua is a reminder of our ultimate return to Allah. When we leave this world, our voices will fade, our words will end, but the record of our hearts will remain. What we whispered silently, what we longed for deeply, what we kept between ourselves and our Lord, all of it will be preserved. On that day, we will realize that the silent moments of faith were some of the strongest we ever had. So do not underestimate the silence of your du'as, embrace it. Let it strengthen you. When you cannot speak, remember that you are not unheard. When you are quiet, remember that your silence is loud in the heavens. When you feel alone, remember that Allah is closer to you in those silent moments than you could ever comprehend. And the more you trust Him with your silence, the stronger your faith will grow until it becomes unshakable. My beloved brothers and sisters, when we reflect on everything we have spoken about, it all comes down to one simple truth: Allah hears you in ways you cannot even comprehend. Whether you speak loudly, whisper softly, or remain silent with only your heart trembling, He knows, He listens, He understands. The silence of your heart is louder to Him than the cries of your tongue. What a source of peace that is! In a world where people fail to notice our pain, overlook our struggles, or misinterpret our silence, Allah never does. He is closer to you than you are to your own thoughts, and His care for you is greater than your care for yourself. So never belittle the power of your unspoken duas. They are like seeds planted in the soil of His mercy. Some grow quickly, others take time, and some are saved for your eternal abode where the harvest will never end. Trust that no prayer is lost, no sigh goes unnoticed, and no tear is wasted. Live with that certainty, my brothers and sisters, and you will find your heart calm, your soul at rest, and your connection with Allah unshakable. May Allah hear and respond to all of our unspoken duas in ways more beautiful than we can ever imagine. Ameen.